Came up to what is left of St Mungo's Church in Cumbernauld. Cumbernauld is one of the new town developments from the 60s and 70s, just north of Glasgow, and still shares a Glasgow postcode. And the reason I'm here is yesterday I reported on the destruction through arson of a 180-year-old church in Glasgow, just a few miles from my home. And while I was there, I learnt about this story, which I'm ashamed to say I hadn't known about before yesterday, probably because I was out of the country at the time. However, this was a B-listed building, the same as the Pollock Shaw's parish church. Very different design though. This was built and designed in the 60s, quite a modernistic design, which some people loved, some people hated. Like Marmite for, most of these sort of normal buildings. I thought it was quite unusual. I thought it was quite modern, even though it was 60 years of age. And I quite like it now that you look at photographs inside and out of this church. And in August, early August, this church also was burnt to the ground. As you can see, it was left with a metal skeleton that held up the church after the firefighters got the fire under control. It was totally destroyed, and now it's been razed to the ground. And I thought I need to cover this story. So, on that day, the police put out a request for help for anybody who saw anything suspicious here. They told us on the day of the fire. Now, the fire happened about mid-evening, and the same day as the fire, the police put out a call for evidence, and they had already decided that this was an arson attack. It wasn't an accident. And this is similar to the word I'm getting from the Glasgow Pollock Shaw's Church, that it wasn't an accident. And as I said yesterday, where are the politicians? Where are the media? Now, I know some of the media, through talking to the Church of Scotland today, I phoned up their media department, had a nice chat with a guy there, and he did say to me, although I was out of the country, I probably just missed it, but at the time there was quite a lot of coverage of this on one day. But as far as I can tell now, I did go into the local police station, it's just along the road from where I'm stood just now, to ask them if A, they had caught anybody yet, because I can't see any evidence of that on the internet, and B, to ask them if they were still looking for any information, and I could put out a call out. But unfortunately the place was closed for lunch, so I can only guess. But the fact that there's nothing in the public domain to suggest any arrest for this arson, which was declared an arson on the day by the police, I would think it's fair to assume that nobody's been arrested or indeed charged with the criminality that obviously occurred here. Small interjection to the video here. I actually came back down after recording at the church to the police station. As you can see, the police car beside me will get a wee clue to that. And I went in and asked two simple questions, told them what I was doing, making a video about the church, and asked if the crime had been solved yet. And if not, did they want me to put out a shout out for information. The guy was great, he went away, came back, and he said it's still down as an unsolved, I can't remember the exact terminology he used, but basically it's still an unsolved crime, and anybody with information should call 101 or Crime Stoppers online and quote this crime number, which is PS for Police Scotland 2025 0802, which is the date of the crime backwards, and the crime unit number 3110. So it's been unresolved. Couldn't obviously tell me much about it, but I would think the way that they were talking, they've probably got zero or very few leads on this crime that happened about 8 p.m. on a summer's evening in August, where it would be quite bright. So if anybody can help, 101 Crime Stoppers. 101. So last night, the video about Pollock Shaw's went down rather well. And I thought, what is going on? And I sent it to a few friends of mine who, have people of faith to get their feedback. And one person who is known to many of us, Anne-Marie Ward, she sent me a link to a Substack, which a man in the Church of England wrote a short time ago. with some incredible facts. Do you know that in a 3-year period, 22, 23, 24, sorry, 21, 22 and 23, 9,500 crimes were registered against church and church buildings and church properties in the United Kingdom. Over 3,000 every year. And what from that, the arson figures are approximately about 60 per year. 60 arson attempts or fires per year in Christian buildings in the United Kingdom. Now, how many have you heard of? Now, one interesting thing in the Substack, I'll put a link to it in the bottom that Anne-Marie sent me, was the last, in autumn 2025, we had the Peacehaven attempted arson on a mosque in Sussex, in which I think there was a little bit of fire damage to a door. The wheelie bin melted, but the guy who tried to do it, his car was destroyed, right? So there was practically nothing, not compared to what we see here and what I seen yesterday in Glasgow. But within hours, the politicians, the media, even anti-terror police were all involved in trying to find out who had tried to set fire to this building. Now, in the same timescale, autumn 2025, the local police constabulary there, Sussex Police, had 260 reports of crimes against churches, Catholic and Church of England churches. In the same county, 260 in autumn 2025. Now, they included arson. There was one quite serious fire there. There was attempted arsons. There were knife attacks that needed police to go in and manhandle knives off people. There were theft, attempted theft, and graffiti, desecration of graves and historic artefacts in Sussex. In the same autumn that we had somebody made a bit of an arse of trying to set fire to a mosque, which saw a Prime Minister nonetheless visit the mosque because it was such a terrible case of Islamophobia. We had papers all over the place, and as I said earlier, we even had the anti-terror police all investigating this, as opposed to 260 in the same county in the same season. Now, I'm really struggling to hold back here and explain my thoughts on why that might be, because you get inevitably told that you're a Islamophobe or you're racist or you're any of these things. So I'm going to hold back a bit and explain what my thoughts are. But I think it's evident that to some people, our establishment, our media, mainstream, that when it's Christian buildings, it's not anywhere near as important as it is when it's other denominations and other religions. And that's just potty. Now, one bit of good news that came for this, when I was on the Church of Scotland's website this morning, looking for some contact details, and I came across another story about this church. And when it was getting demolished, as you can see now, it's totally raised. There was one of the, I think it was a church elder or something, found the service from when the foundation stones were laid here. It was commemorated, and in that there was talk of burying a time capsule. And because that booklet was found, the demolition people were advised, and they managed to find this time capsule that was underneath one of the first stones laid here. So there's a tiny wee bit of good news for this story. But we now have no place of worship for the people. This is right in the centre of Cumbernauld. As you can see, surrounded by the shopping precinct, etc., along the road from the police station. Quite a busy part of town. And there's no place of worship now. And it wouldn't only be used for services and such like on Sundays here. This place would have held many. They had a large hall next to it, which was used for lots of things, for kids' clubs and elderly, and loads of people across the community were able to use it. So it's not all about the actual, couple of hours or an hour on a Sunday when people can come here and carry out their worship. Lots of these buildings, and this one and the one that I reported on yesterday, were quite important to the community on the other 6 days of the week. And now, nothing. Just lying bare. However, I do hope, because the Church of Scotland actually own the land, that, they can find some way of resurrecting this ground to give, a place of worship and a place for the community in general in quite a large area in the west of Scotland. But for the time being, this modern depiction of the crucifixion and the cross of Jesus looks as if it's made from girders, the good stuff that we make iron brew from apparently up here. This is all that remains. Any evidence of the history of this B-listed building of historic significance and of great sentimental value to the people here. And when I say that, you think in 60 odd years of being a place of worship, how many weddings, how many christenings, how many funerals took place in this building? And I know myself, when I pass by places, where family members particularly were, services for their burials and cremations. When you pass by buildings, you remember ceremonies like weddings and christenings that you were in. And it holds sentimental value. No more. 60 years here and 180 years worth of memories in the building I was in yesterday, completely destroyed. And nobody cares. Well, I care. So if you enjoyed this video, you want others to see it, click a thumbs up, put your comments below and hit the share button. If you've not already done so, or if you think you have, just double check that you're still subscribed to the channel, and if not, click that button please. But more important than all, unless you're the type of person that this sort of travesty that I've been reported in the last 2 days means nothing, then not you. But everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.